Exactly. So as soon as any company steps out of line and is willing to actually have the truth debated on their platform, it forces the other platforms to allow things to be more truthful, to not censor, because their censorship becomes glaringly obvious.
Yes. Yes.
And the best thing I found as a rebuttal, like if there's a hoax, is just go to the source material.
Right.
If somebody thinks Trump said that we should put Liz Cheney in a firing squad, I'm like, let me send you a link to X so you can watch his video. That's the best way.
Yes.
Don't take my opinion for it. Don't take anyone's opinion for it. Go to the source material.
And community notes.
Yes, and community notes
Community notes
awesome.
is the best.
It's awesome.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets checked.
Yes, including me.
Yeah.
And with community notes, all the software is open source and all the data is open source. So you can recreate any given note independently.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
It's total, absolute transparency in every way. Sometimes I get asked like, "Oh, Elon, can you remove a note?" Mostly by the left, but sometimes by the right. I'm like, I don't even remove notes on my own account. Nothing. And by the way, everything is totally open. So if I did that, it would stick out like a sore thumb. Immediately. Like, it's not going to be subtle.
That is the best counter to misinformation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, let everybody look at it and say, okay, here's what the actual facts say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The counter to misinformation is better information.
Not just that, but having it checked in real time by the community. So you have millions of people that can go over it and debate whether or not this is true or that's true.
Yes, and like I said, like the best way to understand the truth of things is don't take anyone's opinion for it. Look at the source material. It's like, look at what someone actually said, look at what someone actually did, look at the real videos of the situation, and then you'll know what's real.
So as of today, when you were literally on your way here, you sent me this text saying that they're trying to lock you up in jail in Pennsylvania. Tell me what the fuck is happening.
Well, there's the classic sort of Soros DA situation. So we're making a lot of progress in Pennsylvania. So I've given a whole bunch of talks throughout the state, because Pennsylvania is the linchpin in this election. Whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the election. So I've been giving talks. And I spent 3 years in Pennsylvania. I went to college in Philadelphia. So it's not like I'm not a total stranger to the state. I spent 3 years there. And we've organized this petition in support of the Constitution, which I think is a good thing, and specifically asking people to, and we wanted this to be like registered voters in swing states. Like, basically, we want to send a message to the politicians to say that the people care about the Constitution, because there have been all these attacks on the Constitution. They've been, especially on the Democrat side, they've been repeatedly saying that the First Amendment is an obstacle, and they're claiming, oh, the First Amendment is enabling disinformation, misinformation. And I'm like, yo, there's a reason for the First Amendment. Like, freedom of speech, the reason the founders of the country put the freedom of speech there is because they came from countries where if you spoke your mind, you would get shot or imprisoned. That's why the First Amendment exists. And the Second Amendment is there to stop the tyranny of government. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, is there to protect freedom of speech. And I've had these debates, especially with people in LA, because they're like, want to take everyone's guns away. And I'm like, yo, can you guarantee me that that we will never have a tyrannical government in the United States? Can you make that guarantee? They're like, well, nobody can make that guarantee. I'm like, then we need to keep our guns, because that's what's going to stop it.
That sounds crazy for people to hear, because they think about gun violence and gun problems and gun this and gun that, but that's the reality of the world that we live in, is that tyranny is possible, and it exists other places, and it's slowly existing. It's slowly rearing its head in the UK. You're seeing, I think the number of people that have been arrested for just social media posts is bananas. It's in the thousands.
Yes, several thousand people have been given prison sentences in the UK for social media posts where there was no explicit link to actual violence, but they just said it encouraged violence. I'm like, well, did anyone actually do anything as a result of that media post? Well, no. But they're just, and then they have a prison overcrowding situation in the UK, so they're quite literally releasing convicted pedophiles and putting people in jail for Facebook posts. That's an actual thing happening in Britain.
That is so wild.
Like you're like,
it's so wild that people can't see
what the fuck, is going on?
And what's insane to me
Make
is
Orwell fiction again.
Yeah. But it's all being encouraged by the left. Ketanji Brown Jackson, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton.
John Kerry was one of the people who said that he's on camera like a few weeks ago saying that the First Amendment is an obstacle to fighting misinformation.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's such a crazy thing to say when you have a solution in community notes.
Yes,
you have a solution in something like that could clear everything up, any confusion within a day or two.
And even without a community note, you can reply to a post and with evidence that shows that the post is wrong. You don't even need community notes. I mean, community notes is helpful because it sticks to the original note.
Yes.
But in the replies, you can say, here's why you're wrong, here are the reasons, and here's the evidence.
But the argument is that people are too unsophisticated, that they're not going to research these things. They're going to be a victim of misinformation. So they're going to read something that's incorrect. They're going to run with it. People are going to die. We're going to ruin the world because people believed in misinformation. It's a stupid argument.
It's a stupid argument.
Because it's an argument that they're too dumb to know what's right or wrong. Well, if you know, because you're saying it's misinformation, why do you think that you're smarter than everybody who reads that?
Exactly. And obviously anyone on the X system knows that things are posted and then there are replies and there are rebuttals and it's immediately corrected. But where are the corrections for the legacy media?
Right.
If some broadcast media, they say false things all the time, but it's a one-way street. There's no rebuttal. There's no counter.
Right. Right. Who's apologized for being incorrect about what? Did Rachel Maddow ever apologize for telling everybody that if you get the COVID vaccine, you're never going to get COVID? It won't. The virus stops with you.
No, never.
Never. Yeah. No one ever. It's just. It was not true at the time. There was no evidence to support it at the time. It's pure propaganda. And she said it. The Russiagate hoax. For 3 fucking years, they said that he was Putin's toy.
Yes.
And that Putin had him compromised. The Steele dossier.
Steele dossier was completely fabricated by a lawyer at Perkins Coie, who was paid by the Clinton campaign. Literally.
Crazy.
And still people think the Russia hoax is real.
And there's no repercussions.
Yes.
No one had to apologize. Hillary Clinton never came out and apologized for that, and people still listen to her. The whole thing is crazy. Yeah. And it's all coming from the left, which growing up as a person who was in the left my whole life, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Same. I mean, I was on the left until like 3 years ago. I mean,
it's not the left anymore.
It's not the left anymore. Yeah. It's just like I think we obviously want. I mean, I believe like we want freedom. Like we want to maximize personal liberty. I think we want to be kind to people. We want to have empathy, but it's very important to have personal freedom and a merit-based society. And the left wants to oppress your freedoms, especially freedom of speech, and they want to have a non-merit-based society, with race-based and sex-based preferences. And it's like, well, wait a second. No, we just want people to succeed based on their skills and their hard work.
And if they don't want people to express themselves about particular issues, then they're not doing the will of the people. And if they're trying to suppress people's ability to communicate, they're only doing that because they want to do things that people don't want them to do.
Yes.
And they want to silence opposition. That's all it is. And the
100%.
fact that people can't see that and they want to call Trump a fascist. The whole thing is
it's just
through the looking glass. It's just.
I mean, it's like one hoax after another that they're perpetrating against Trump. I mean, like they try to call the rally at Madison Square Gardens like a Nazi rally. I'm like, yo, there was like literally an Israeli flag in the audience. I think like a quarter of the speakers were Jewish. Like there were people of every race, color, creed, religion at that rally. Like, tell me what about that is Nazi?
No,
and yet it was portrayed as a Nazi rally.
Well, MSNBC, they literally showed video of the Nazi rally from the 1930s and then compared it to the Trump rally. Now, ignoring the fact that fucking Jimmy Carter spoke there.
There have been dozens of political rallies at Madison Square Gardens, dozens on the Democrat side. Like people on X were like, and here's Jimmy Carter, and here's
At a Nazi
Bill
rally.
Clinton. And here's, wait a second. Actually, it looks like every presidential candidate has done on the Democrat side, has done a rally at Madison Square Gardens. Are they Nazis too?
But what they're doing is they're preying on low information voters who aren't engaged actively on social media, who don't have the time to look through everything. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, people are living, if people are just on looking at legacy mainstream media, then they have a totally different worldview than if they're on X and seeing the actual flow of argument.
Yes.
And the actual evidence.
Well, what was the pushback? Like, what happened when you guys released the Twitter files? Because I think the Twitter files is probably one of the most important things in this age of information for understanding the influence that government has on social media and on discourse. Because when we found out that that was the case, that the government was actually asking Twitter to remove posts that were factual,
all the time.
They did the same thing to Facebook. They had them throttle pieces of one of Tucker Carlson's show. They suppressed the views by 50%.
Yeah.
Of factual information.
Yeah, no, there was massive government interference in Twitter, but like Twitter welcomed it. That's important to all Twitter welcomed it. All Twitter was controlled by far left activists.
Yeah.
So they welcomed the government interference. They got paid by the government for it.
That's crazy. They got paid for their time, correct?
Yeah, they got paid millions of dollars for suppressing information.
So it's like build time.
And a bunch of it was like flat out illegal. Like the FBI had this sort of magic portal into the Twitter system, but all of the communication in this portal was auto deleted after 2 weeks, which breaks federal FOIA laws. So we don't even know what was said because it was all deleted after 2 weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. It's so crazy that people thought that was okay.
It's super not okay.
No, it's super not okay. It's unconstitutional, and no one would want that. No one would want the government to have that kind of access.
Exactly.
And what was the blowback like when all that stuff got released? Like, you had to anticipate that there was going to be problems when you released that. Like, what happened?
Well, we got we did lose a lot of advertising dollars,
which is crazy because it's essentially like one of the most important forms of journalism is exposing government corruption.
Yes, I mean this is the weird thing. It's like the left used to be big on exposing government corruption, but once they control the government, they no longer want to expose the government corruption.
Right. They want to pretend that the left-wing government's incapable of corruption because we're on the good side.
I think it maybe just like whoever's in power kind of doesn't want the other side heard, because as you pointed out, like the left historically, up until I don't know, maybe even 10 years ago or something like that, was the free speech party, and now it's the anti-free speech party, and they use words like oh well, we have to be against hate speech and misinformation, disinformation, but these are propaganda words. It's like. Well, who's defining hate speech? Who's defining misinformation? The government? Do you really trust the government to make that definition? The whole point of the First Amendment is like you do not trust the government.
Well, especially when they're wrong.
And
there's no repercussions.
Yes.
Yeah, like with the whole lab leak theory, you would get kicked off of YouTube if you even presented this argument that, hey, maybe that coronavirus lab where they're doing work on the exact same virus that got released.
Yep.
Hey, maybe that's where it came from since that's where the virus started. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
They kick you right off of YouTube.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's like, do you think maybe it could have come from a place called the Novel Coronavirus Research Institute.
Yeah, like that Jon Stewart bit that he did on Colbert. That was amazing.
It's like, what does it say on the door again? Can I see your business card?
And to see Colbert like resisting it with every fiber of his being.
Like, what's going to happen to us?
He was totally cock blocking the bit to the point where Jon Stewart got off his chair and started walking around to try to take control. Man. Yeah, good on Jon.
And then the left tried to cancel Jon Stewart.
Of course.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he was right.
He's right.
And no apologies. No apologies. Yeah, and the whole Fauci thing, like any criticism of Fauci, it's like anti-science.
Fauci's a friggin' demon, if you ask me.
If you read RFK's book, if the real Anthony Fauci, if that's correct, if the facts are in there, that's true, it's all referenced. You could find the sources, and on top of it, he's never been sued for that book.
Yeah.
which doesn't make any sense. If he just made a
Exactly.
bunch of lies up, he would get sued.
Yes.
So the guy's a monster.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think like just looking at the lies that he told, the way he tried to define gain-of-function research to Rand Paul.
But I think maybe a lot of people out there don't realize Fauci funded the bioweapons research that was going on in Wuhan, and he bank shot it off. Like he can't send the money directly to China, so he just bank shot it off EcoHealth.
Right.
This like fake nonprofit in
Right.
the U.S. and they sent it to Wuhan.
And Obama put the skids on that. He stopped that in 2014.
Yes, I mean, so to give Obama some credit, he actually was like looking at this and say, hey, this is crazy, and he actually did stop the so-called gain of function, again, a propaganda word, because what is the function they're talking about? Death.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if you actually use the right word, this is gain of function is death maximization.
Right.
Then you're like, hey guys, should we fund bioweapon research into death maximization? Because that's what gain of function means.
Yeah, it means
That's the function.
making
death.
a disease so that people can get it. Give it to people.
Yeah,
By the way,
what's that function again? Oh, the function is death? Oh, okay. So just
Also,
call it a death maximizing virus.
if you're
That's
doing
insane.
research on that, and the idea behind this research is so that we can cure these things, how come you don't have a fucking cure?
Start with a cure. Cure first, disease second.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, you guys had no strategy for
Yeah.
dealing with it if it got out? And so you have to like make up this new vaccine in like record time, Operation Warp Speed, release it to the people with very little testing. It's fucking crazy.
It was crazy.
The whole thing's crazy, and
That was
everybody
like
just
Looney
went
Tunes,
along
man.
with it.
Looney Tunes next level.
Well, it's the psyop was fascinating to watch people step in
That's
line.
like one of the biggest psyops of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time. And everybody got in line.